Vario did what Seiko tried to do years ago, and they did it even better. I can actually speak to this because one of the watches that I hunted down for myself multiple times in my watch collecting journey was this extremely rare Seiko Nano Universe Pilot watch. I actually owned this one and multiple times and a couple variations. At this time, I don't have it in my collection anymore, but if you want to watch a review video of this very rare Seiko, you can do that here. I'll put the link right here. But when I found out Vario released the 1918 Pilot watch, I quickly realized that they simply one-upped Seiko. Having this watch in hand, and like I said, owning that Seiko multiple times, I can tell you that this watch is better made, it's more unique, and it's a better value, especially because you can buy one today on their website and it's priced below $400 US. But enough talk, let's take a good look at the Vario 1918 Pilot hand-wound watch. One of the drawbacks of the Seiko Nano Universe was that the dimensions of the watch were just too big. The Seiko came in at 42 millimeters, and it just wore big because, well, there's no bezel. Any watch that doesn't have a bezel and it's all dial, it's naturally just going to wear bigger on the wrist. That's just a good rule of thumb. Most Pilot watches that don't have timing bezels do this. So for my 7¼ inch wrist, a 40 millimeter dial is just about perfect for me. And when you're looking at the Vario, it's more compact at 40 millimeters. And like I said, for me, that's about a perfect size. But more importantly about the case dimensions is that it's a thin 10 millimeters. And we are going to talk a little bit more about the thinness of the watch and what it means for the watch. But the lug to lug, as you can see here, it's 48 millimeters, and the lug width is 20 millimeters. The great news is if you also feel the same about the dial size, especially when you don't have a bezel, but you have a smaller wrist than I do, Vario says they are producing a 37 millimeter dial that should be out at the end of 2024. Now, there's so many unique features of this watch. I want to talk what makes the 1918 one of the better propositions for a Pilot watch on the market today. And like I said, the price of this watch is less than $400. And in today's market, it's not easy to find a watch, especially with some of the features that this watch has, and that I'm going to talk about. So let's start with the movement. Inside the Vario 1918 Pilot watch, there's a Miyota 8N33 hand-wound movement. This movement is a non-hacking and it is hand-wound, which allows for the super thin profile of the 1918. But with this movement, you get a display case back, which I do love. I always tell people that I love seeing the movement of a watch. Even if it's not some fancy high horology movement, just being able to see the gears and the mechanisms, it just makes me smile. But when you flip the watch back over, let's take a look at the dial. The dial has these beautiful Gothic indices that seem to be printed on the enamel dial. Yeah, you heard me correctly. This watch features an enamel dial, which is absolutely beautiful. I wish I was loaned in the black dial because that would have been my choice if I had been able to pick one or the other. But the white dial is beautiful in its own right. And protecting the dial is a 2 millimeter thick domed sapphire crystal with inner AR coating. The lume on the dial is C3, but you can see that the application is a bit stronger on the cathedral handset and the second hand. And in my experience, the handset does outlast the rest of the dial with its lume. And it would have been nicer to see a more even application between the dial and the handset, in my opinion. But what you probably noticed is the watch comes on this very awesome boon strap. Now I like boon straps, especially in the wintertime, but only as long as you're wearing a timepiece that is thin enough. And when the 1918 arrived on my doorstep, the first thing I looked for and the first thing I noticed was how thin the watch was, and that it fit perfectly on the boon strap. Because if you have a watch that's too thick and then you add the thickness of a boon strap, it's just going to pop out of your wrist. But that's not the case with the 1918. But I know that boon straps are not for everyone, but the good news is that this boon strap is extremely well made. Now, it was made by Vario, which, if you didn't know, originally got their start by making straps for watches. That's how I first got introduced to Vario, is buying a strap from their website. So of course, I had very high expectations for the strap that came with this watch, and I was not disappointed at all. So there's a couple things I want to show you here. When you take apart the boon strap, these rivets, they're actually functional. You actually have to use a screwdriver to unscrew the rivet, but once you do that, you'll notice that the 1918 has wired lugs, which is similar to like a Panerai radio mirror, which I did own years ago. But the difference between these lugs and an actual Panerai is that the 1918 lugs are fixed. In the Panerai, you can unscrew them and take them out, but here you cannot. Now, in my opinion, having fixed lugs are great for security reasons because you have less points for a strap failure. But it's not so great for having different choices for straps or different strap variations. It works fine if you want to throw a NATO on the 1918, which does work, as you can see right here. However, it just so happens Vario makes these really cool clip-on leather straps that they sell separately on their site. And after easily putting the strap on the 1918, I realized what a nice option this is, especially if you love leather straps. Because a boon strap might be a little too much for your taste or some people's taste. So these straps are really well made and a very nice option for the 1918, and they're not unreasonably priced, in my opinion, on the Vario site. One of the other features of the 1918, specifically the pilot watch, is the dial is tilted for better visibility for pilots and, well, for us mere mortals that just drive around in cars. What makes this watch unique is that if you look closely, this is an actual unicorn crown. The crown is situated at the 12 o'clock indice, but because the dial is tilted, the crown appears to be at 1:30. I thought this was a great touch, making this watch extra special. Although I was 10 minutes early to a Zoom meeting last week. Think about that. If I had to nitpick and point out anything that I didn't like about the watch in my month of wearing it, would be that it's simply just not very waterproof. It's a hand-wound watch. It's not meant to be a diver, so the water resistance is only 50 meters, and it has a push-pull crown. But that's expected on a hand-wound watch, so I can't really hold it against Vario at all. But for me personally, I love having an everyday watch that has a screw-down crown, some sort of water resistance. But this is not an everyday watch for me. This would be a watch that I would wear out to dinner, or while having drinks with friends, or with my wife and friends. And due to its unique looks, tilted enamel dial, and beautiful bold Gothic numerals, this watch is nothing short of a conversation starter, especially when you're with a group of friends that are not necessarily watch enthusiasts. It gets a lot of attention. Frankly, Vario did a great job with the 1918 watch and the other variants that are on their site too. If you have not seen the 1918 Trench watch or the Medic watch, you should check that out on the Vario website for more information. It's going to be hard for any other company to compete with this style of aviator watch. And a hand-wound unicorn watch is not your thing? Check out the 1918 Trench watch because that's more, conservative as far as looks go. But I'm going to tell you, from somebody that's had the pleasure of using this watch for several weeks now, not going to be disappointed if you like this style of watch. Now, I want to thank Ivan and his team over at Vario for loaning in this watch to the channel. And if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake. I'm a bit of a watchaholic. And if you've made it this far, I'm going to assume you're a watchaholic too. So thank you for spending your time with me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video and to the channel. I'll catch you on the next video.